All right. I told you if you have any questions about body language, just email them to me and I'd answer them. And you emailed them to me and I'm going to answer them. And if you have a question about body language, just email it to me at bodylanguagequestions@gmail.com and I'll get right on it. We got some great questions today. For example, there's one about AI and interrogation. How's that work, or how will it work? We're going to talk about body language and facial cues when it comes to depression. Is there anything you can do personally that will help you feel better with facial expressions and body language? Are there cues and tells you can find or see on someone when they're comfortable lying? We all know somebody who's comfortable lying. How are you going to know? Because they're so comfortable with it. I'm going to show you exactly how to know. We'll talk about, can psychopaths become religious? Stuff like that. Some of them get kind of out there, but it's going to be good. So let's get to the first one. All right. You've talked about controlling your facial expressions when spotting a liar. Scott, do you have a facial tell when you spot a liar? I do. It is the worst. It's the worst. It really is. And everybody I know that knows it, when they see it, they go, dude, because when I do this, it's hilarious because it looks like I'm crazy. And I don't think I'm doing it. I'm trying to be like, oh, let's see what's going on, and nothing happening. But it's the worst. You want to see it? Here it is, right there. That's me. That woman was telling one, and I couldn't hardly stand it. I couldn't wait for her to finish talking because I had her right there. And it ended up she was in this little instance here. She was being dishonest, and I caught her. And but that's what it looks like. That's my facial tell when I see somebody who's being deceptive, and I know it, and I don't think anybody can see it. I don't think my face changes. I swear it. That's what it looks like. All right, what's the next one? What's the difference in a mouth shrug and contempt? When I got that email, this girl, a woman, Shannon, sent it to me, and she said that. I said, I don't know what a mouth shrug is. So she sent me a picture. Here it is. And that's a mouth shrug. And actually, it's just pulling your mouth that way to the side. And that could mean a couple of different things. It could be you don't agree with something. You're like, depends on what else is going on in your face with the facial expressions. But an expression like that, pretty much everything's blank. And she's just like, so it could be, I really don't care. That's what it could be showing you. Or it could be, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do this, that type of thing. And contempt is more like this. It's more, even though that's one-sided like that. And you could say that's contempt depending on what the situation is, because you have to take everything into context, everything going on into context when you look at body language and start making decisions. Because if you don't, you're going to make the wrong decision. You're going to make somebody mad, or you may lose a friend, or you may lose a chance to make somebody you're just meeting or somebody you sort of know, they may not like you anymore. You said, oh, you don't like that. You want to do that. I see contempt. So you never want to tell anybody you see any of these things. But contempt is mostly like that. One side of your mouth goes up, or your lip, like that. And it can be really small. It can happen as a micro expression where it happens really fast, or it can be fairly big, like when I was doing it. So I hope that helps, Shannon. All right. Do you think AI will be used in interrogations to help find deception? I do. And I think it's going to be a while before they get it honed in to where you can actually trust it. But I think you'll be able to. But it's going to be all situations I don't think you'll be able to look at. When you see interrogations, you're not up close like this, right? Because you're seeing them from these little cameras that are up in the corner of the room most of the time, So it's not going to be able to do it from that. It'll have to be some situation where there's a camera right in front of them, I would think. That's what would make the most sense to me, so you can see what's going on. It'll be able to see the temperature in your face and what's moving, what isn't moving, the tiny little micro expressions, and make the decisions about whether that is a micro expression or not, or if you have some kind of neurological something going on, a deficit or something that makes little things jump around on your face. Because sometimes people fire off these little things, and it's because something is not right neurologically with them. So I think it's going to happen, but it's going to be a while. It's also going to be able to listen to your voice. They'll hear the stress markers in the voice. A lot of times you don't hear those. I do, because I'm used to listening to things. I don't hear all of them. Nobody does. but I'm more in tune to those. So for me, it's a little bit easier when you start talking about stress markers in sound and vocals, or when somebody's talking in speech. So for me, it's a little bit easier to listen to hear the stress when the vocal cords tighten up and all that, or the voice goes a little bit higher, or they start talking a little bit faster. So, but I think AI will get on that. Now, having said that, let's talk about this. When you use AI, I don't know if you've used it before, but you can use Chat GPT. I went ahead and got that Chat GPT 4.0 or 4.1, wherever the newest one is. I try to stay up to date with what's happening. And so I got that. And on this channel, I have some of these videos that are like sleep videos. I got into learning while you sleep, see if that worked, and then read all the studies on it and a bunch of books and stuff, right? So I was like, well, I'll do a couple of those videos. I think I did 4 of them on here, and they're working great from what I understand. And to put for the covers, I said, well, I'll just get AI to make the covers for that. The thumbnail, they call it, the picture you see on the video. So you just say, please create a photo of a woman lying in bed comfortably, sleeping in a cozy room with a fireplace. You tell it whatever you want to do, right? And these are some of the pictures that popped up. There's this one. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if we're looking at the homicide or what is going on there. That's odd. Then we got this one. That's just creepy, man. I don't know what's going on with that. That's a little bit out of hand there for me. Then I said, why don't you do, and I want to see what it did. When it started doing that, I said, well, I want to see what it does if I do something for Behavior X, this channel name. I said, I'll come up with a cooler logo than I got because I just made this one myself, in whatever the thing, Keynote for Mac is where I made all this stuff. All of our, like on the behavior panel in here, all the what do you call it? Not automation, animation. All that stuff's done in Keynote. That's why it looks like South Park or something so cheap. I don't know how to do it. That's why it looks so clunky and stuff, just so you know. So I said, I went to Chat GPT. I said, I have a YouTube channel called Behavior X. Please create a logo for me, right? Here's what those look like. There's this one. What's up? Then there's this one. I don't even know what that is. It's like a science tester. I don't know what that is. Then there's this one. What the heck? So I don't get any of that. It's learning. It's getting a little bit better, I guess, I would imagine. But it doesn't look like it's doing the best there. Then I asked it to do Van Halen. That was who I used to listen to when I was a kid, was, Van Halen. So I said, look, create a picture of the band Van Halen. And this is what it made. And then I said, create a picture of, or create a photo of Led Zeppelin. It's my other favorite one's Led Zeppelin. And I got this. It's like Robert Plant playing guitar and Robert Plant playing guitar singing, Robert Plant playing bass. It's all Robert Plant in the band. Everybody in the band is Robert Plant playing something. It's crazy. So when it comes to AI, it's going to be iffy for a while when it comes to interrogation. But after a while, I'm sure they'll get it figured out. And I'm talking like 30 years from now. I know it's developing quickly. It's doing great. It's going to take over the world and all of that stuff. But from a logical, realistic point of view, and dealing with someone where they're going to go to prison or not, or you're going to have to give them the old bang so they aren't with us anymore, you got to take that super serious. So I think it's going to be a long time before it's ready. But I think at one point someday they'll be able to do that, use it for that. Scott, have you seen any actors or musicians or authors, without naming names, that make you feel like there's some sociopathy or psychopathy going on there? I see these people and I just get that feeling. Now, what are your thoughts? And again, not naming names. Who would they be? I'm not going to. I see what you're saying now. All right, is there anybody I think that's a sociopath or a psychopath? Like I told you before, I'm not in the whole sociopath thing. Sociopaths are just hardcore criminals. It's like psychopath light. It's like the sociopath is really the psychopath, but they have feelings and their amygdala are intact and the brain is still communicating properly amongst the lobes and everything going on in there. So for me, that's what that's what sociopathy, quote unquote, is. And that term is just used because it makes psychopathy seem less as horrible. So they don't say he's a psychopath, he's a sociopath. It's just, and this is just happening over there. And psychopath, like I've said before, it's not even in the DSM-5. So that's not even a real term either. It's just one that we all use. Everyone uses. So anyway, there's nobody I know like that. I mean, there were some people I went to school. I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston. And I met one or two people I thought were kind of at school. I thought were kind of weird, But but I don't know any. There are some people that act a little odd. That are artists and singers. I noticed when Winona Judd, she talks about herself in the third person. So I always say, Winona would never do this, or Winona would, and I've just seen her do that on TV. I think she was on a talk show. First time I heard her say that. And Al Green talks about himself in the third person. If you don't know who Al Green is, he's one of the greatest singers ever walked the planet. Awesome, love him. Al would always say, Scott want to smoke a cigarette with Al? And I'd be, yeah, I'll smoke a cigarette with Al. I always talk to him like in the third person too. So it's kind of weird. That's back when I smoked, when I went to Berklee. I think I was out of Berklee at that time. Still lived in Boston. I was a session guy. And he says, Scott, want to go get some food with Al? I'd be like, yeah, Scott wants to go with that. Because I started doing it too. I was like, yeah, Scott will go with Al to get some food. Let's go. And there's this place called Bob the Chef's in Boston. It was the best soul food. I don't know if you've ever had soul food before. Oh my gosh, it was so good. So good. Bob the Chef's. I don't know if it's still there. I'm going to go back and see. Next time I'm in Boston, I'm going to look it up and see. Man, that was good. If you're there, look up Bob the Chef's. I'm telling you, man, it's the first time I ever had chitlins. I don't know if you ever had chitlins before. They're great. And I called my dad and I said, hey, man, because the guys I was with, they said, you should get some chitlins, man. I said, okay, I will. Went up there and they put a bunch of them on a plate and I ate them and thought they were awesome. And there was called stump slung chitlins, and I didn't know what stump slung was. And I was like, all right, great, I'll get some. And so I called my dad and I said, you're not gonna believe what I had today. And he said, what? And I said, I went to Bob the Chef's and I got chitlins. He said, you did? I said, yeah. He said, the chitterling. I said, is that the way you say it? He said, that's what it is. It's chitterling, but you call it chitlins. I said, okay. He said, do you know what chitlin is? I said, no, I need kind of like some kind of pasta or something. He said, no, it's not pasta. Nothing like that. You want me to tell you what it is? I said, yeah, what is it? It's cow intestines. Yeah, cow intestines. And they call them stump slung cow intestines because they sling them over a stump to get the out of them. I was eating that. People eat it all the time. But you know what? It was so good, I might eat it again. They're good. If you ever get a chance, at least try it. At least try it. I don't think I'd eat it again now that I know what it is, because I never did after that. But I always look at it and go, I can't believe that they're letting people eat this, or they're serving it to people. And I didn't know if they were laughing when people eat or what. But when I came in, I'm sure if they were going to laugh at somebody eating it, it would have been me. But everybody else got it too that I was with. Try them. You might like them. Check them out at least. What should we look for if we are interviewing job candidates? I would imagine you look for congruence and loping. Loping, I'll tell you about that in a second. Then appropriate confirmation nods. This is somebody that really watches all of our stuff. Is that right? Anything else? Okay. Loping is when someone's telling you a story and everything's going right along. And it's like, we went to, like I was telling you the Chitlin story. As I'm going along there, it's just kind of almost like a horse in a field. That's the way I see it. I'm the one that coined loping. They're just kind of loping along, telling you the story. Hey, man, everything's great. And then when it starts doing this with your story, it starts slowing down or speeding up or stopping, that kind of thing. They'll let you know there's a lot of internal dialogue going on. So that's sort of backing up the system there. So the loping stops and the thing starts kind of walking along or trying to run. When you're loping, your story does. So when somebody's loping along with the story and all of a sudden it gets kind of iffy and stops and gets all jerky and they start thinking too much, it could be one of two things. If they're telling you a story and you haven't said, where were you before this, or where were you on that date, or where were you before you went to this at that time, and they're going to get in trouble for it if they're lying to you. That's different, okay? Because when they're not loping anymore, and they stop and they start getting all jerky around and stuff, that's when something's up, and you got to ask more questions around that subject about whatever's going on, okay? So, but in normal storytelling, when they're loping along like that and they stop and they're kind of bumping around and saying things, taking their time or just really jerky in there, they're just thinking about what happened next. They may not have told the story in a while. I haven't told that chitlin story in 30 years, probably 20, not 30 years, 20 years probably. So that's why I think I was loping through it anyway. So somebody stops or they get kind of jerky in there, if they're in trouble for something possibly, or you're under the impression they've done something they shouldn't have and you're asking about it, listen for that. And confirmation nods, you already know what that is. No, I didn't do it. It's not the yes saying no, when they're doing this, but they're lying about it. No, it's confirmation. It's confirming the things they're saying, like an illustrator. Yeah, you want to make sure the person is relaxed. They may be a little bit nervous, but they shouldn't be nervous the whole time. After a few minutes, they should calm down a little bit and at least get to a point where they can talk semi-normal. If they're sweating a lot or something, you may go, oh, that's drugs. They may just be nervous. It's hard to tell, but it depends on the questions you're asking, right? Because you go along with your questioning, they may get nervous during all that. They may be someone who's shy. Not everybody's going to come in and go, hey, and nail it. And quite often that person that comes on and goes, hey, and everything's great, they're not as good as the person who's quiet. Because think about quiet people. You get some of those, and they're quiet because they look at it, they watch everything going on. My wife's one of those quiet ones. And she's constantly looking for things going on in people. She can see a whole lot of stuff. And I'm sure you can too. You know the feeling when you're in a group and in a crowd and you see something happening, you go, yeah. But and you may not be a person who's one to start talking to everybody. I am somebody who talks to some people all the time. I'll talk to anybody. I don't care. I love talking to people. So there are some people who are just quiet and some people who aren't going to be comfortable, but they're still going to be able to do the job really well and do a great job. So don't just dismiss people who are the quiet type or who are uncomfortable as they talk to you. Okay, keep that in mind. Is there a way to know if you have answered our questions, or will I just have to watch all of the Behavior X videos here and find out? Yeah, I try not to answer the same questions twice, but when they come up, sometimes I want to because I try to reiterate the important stuff. I'm always talking about confirmation nods, illustrators, those kind of things, and internal dialogue, because those are some of the ones you should build that should be the groundwork for what you're building, for what you're trying to do, to learn about body language. So I bring those up a lot. I don't think more than I should, but it's sort of a reminder. And everybody that watches this, they know that. So I would suggest going back and watching for those. And if somebody has asked it before, and it's a good one, and I think it should be part of that foundation that everybody's building in here, then I'll answer it again. And I'll say, I think I've answered this one before, but, so but go watch a couple of those because number one, I think you'll learn a lot and you get the idea, the groove of what we're doing here. We're just hanging out and I'm answering questions. That's it. That's all that's happening. So go watch a few of those, but ask me your question anyway. Ask it anyway. That'd be the most important. Well, yeah, ask me the question anyway. And if it's a good one, I'll answer it if I haven't done it already. And usually I know what video it is when I write back and go, oh, you check out 2 videos before this last one, if I'm not going to answer that one again. But most of the time when I get them, I've answered so many at this point, I don't, a lot of times I don't remember. All right. Is it possible for a person that does not have the genes for psychopathy to learn to teach themselves not to be fazed by things that would normally make anyone else uncomfortable in order to seem like someone not to be messed with? It's a long question. It's a little confusing. I see what you're saying, but there are no genes for psychopathy. As far as we know, there is a theory that's out there that says it can be passed down, and not everybody gets it, like balding, or the red hair gene, or something like that. But there's no gene that's been isolated that says, oh, that kid's going to be a psychopath when they grow up. Yeah. So, and you can't, in other words, you can't as well, you can't fix a psychopath. So if the person tries to look normal and do all that, there's no way you can get past that. Now, psychopaths will try to look normal. They will copy you. They'll imitate you so close that sometimes it's actually scary because they don't understand what it looks like when someone's becoming emotional. When I get on here and I get all worked up and they can't do that. Can't do it because they don't know how. Right? They don't have the feelings, in other words, to let that for that to happen. The brain doesn't work properly. I won't go into the whole psychopath thing, which I go into. It seems like every show here about how the brain functions with psychopaths. However, they will try to copy it, and you'll see them copy other people's emotions that they see because they don't understand what those emotions are they're seeing, but they know they got to have them. And they figure this out when they're younger, in their early 20s. They go, I'm different than everybody else. What's going on? And they'll see a big upheaval of emotion, be it anger, be it happiness, or someone who's really confused and has a little emotional. They may cry, or from a breakup or something, and they'll imitate those things. It's bizarre when you see them do it. I actually had a guy do that to me once. I've told that, like I was saying, I've told that on here before, so I won't tell it again. But it's pretty weird, man. It's pretty weird when they do that, but that's the way they do it. So they will try to imitate you. They will try to use other people's expressions because they don't know what their body language when they're feeling an emotion. So they'll look quirky for a couple of years. It'll be kind of odd, But once they get it down, man, you can't tell it's fake quite often. You're going to be able to. Keep watching this stuff, I promise you'll be able to. But right now, you probably won't be able to. But you will. You'll be able to see it. All right. My ex-boyfriend would very often thrust his jaw to the side. I think it was to his right side, maybe. Like that, I guess. I knew it meant something significant, but I couldn't figure it out. His expression doing that really bothered me. I have to know its meaning. That usually indicates that person doesn't agree with what's happening. It's like, go to one side there. I can't do it. And I don't know exactly what the thing is you're talking about. But if their jaw goes to one side, you can almost see that like a lip purse, except a little bit more. There may be anger with it in there as they're doing it. They don't agree with what they're seeing or hearing. So they'll do that. Same with a lip person. They go, that says I don't like that. I'm not into that. Or I don't agree with it. Now, when you see lips purse to the side, when they go like that, quite often, not all the time, but a lot of times that means they see a different outcome as to what has been presented. In other words, bowlers is the example I always use. When someone's bowling, you'll see them go, when the ball starts going to the side because they want to go to the other side, so they go. So how's that? But yeah, the jaw to the side, that a lot of times that indicates or denotes discomfort in something they're seeing. They don't like seeing that. Don't agree with it, in other words. For someone who lies so frequently that it's the norm for them, are there noticeable adapters since they're completely comfortable lying? Yeah. So when somebody lies to you, let's say it's a different lie and they lie all the time, you can get through those really easily, because all you have to do, and it's usually not really deep lies. It's not usually about anything important. They're sort of lying for sport, So just ask questions around that. And so you have to get aggressive sometimes. And by aggressive, I mean keep asking questions around them. They go, why you don't believe me or whatever? So no, I was trying to get to the bottom of it. It sounds odd to me. Don't ever be afraid to tell somebody that something sounds weird or it doesn't sound right, but you can't go, that doesn't sound right to me. You can say, wow, no kidding. Tell me more about that. Let me ask you something. And you ask them questions, make it exciting that you're going to ask them about that, depending on what it is. So you don't look like a goof. But ask questions around that. That's where you'll get to the bottom of it. If you know that person's doing this, and it'll hit you wrong most of the time. So and those be really fast and really short, the ones that lie for sport, and it'll be really thin. I don't know how to explain it to you, but they'll be thin. There won't be much to it. It'll sound like something important, something really big and all that. But then start thinking about all those things that have to happen to make that story that is told happen. Think about the people that might be involved. Think about any cameras that might be around. Think about anything like that. Where's their phone? Why didn't somebody do this? Why didn't somebody do that? Would nobody think that was weird if they saw that? Did you not hurt your leg when you did that? Or did you not break a finger when you ask them questions around that? Right? You can be aggressive, but be aggressive in a nice, sweet way. That way they won't shut up on you and they'll never like you again. Because maybe a good person, you may like them, maybe a friend of yours, maybe in your family. You don't want to hate you. But if you want to get to the bottom of it, I'm always saying questions are the key. There's a guy named James Pyle. You've heard us talk about it on the behavior panel, and I've talked about him here, Jim Pyle. That's the question guy right there. Go look up James Pyle on Amazon and get one of his books. That cat, man, he knows how to ask questions. He knows the questions to ask and how to ask them. That's the guy right there. James Pyle is the question guy. So he trained interrogators. Excellent, man, great writer too. So check his stuff out. Just go put him in Amazon. You'll see. If someone tells the same lies over and over, repeating the lie, would that make it the truth in their mind? And would that suppress adapters? When somebody's telling a lie over and over, sometimes people tell a lie for 20, 30 years about something they did in the war or something else that's really a big deal or something, or they're the hero of something, and after a while, that's a little tough to see it. But again, asking questions, that's the key to that, Sometimes because it gets so smooth, they'll leave out all the little details. Before they had a lot of details. And sometimes they may have too many details when somebody tells that. When the cops first show up to a crime scene, and they say, or a murder scene, and they're talking to someone who might be suspected of doing that, but this is when you first show up, the way these people answer, that's so important. Because the cops may show up and somebody's been shot in the living room there, right? And the cops show up and go, "What's going on? What happened?" Well, I'd been to the store and I was driving home and I had the radio on, it was kind of loud. And then I came in the house, I got my keys out, unlocked the door. And I went in and I had our dog there, so I had to put the dog. And I had all these things that have nothing to do with what happened. Because when the cops show up, the person should have said, or most 99.99% of the times, they'll say, "I came home and found my husband dead in the living room. I think somebody shot him." When you ask them about it again, "I don't know. I was at the store." If they ask where you were, I was at the store, and this happened. No, and you have to draw that out of them. You have to keep going and getting that information. They won't tell you all the details. So if the details come too easily at the very top of that, they get too detailed. Something's probably up. Ted Bundy's sister has written a book and she says that she realized he was guilty when she caught him staring at a friend of hers. His eyes had turned black. I've seen people say this before. Is it real? Is it their pupils dilating? A lot of people say they see people's eyes turn black. You can have pupils that dilate a lot. Now, I've seen them dilate a lot, but never to where I thought their eyes were black, because you're talking about the irises. And some people may, when they're in that situation, that may be all they see. And maybe for some reason, this person's pupils are blown out, but if they're that big, there's something wrong anyway. I don't believe it would happen that often. Who was it? Amber Heard was talking about that, about Johnny Depp. His eyes were black. I don't know. I've never seen that. I've never seen black eyes on anybody. Believe me, I've talked to some scary people, and I've never seen that. I don't think I've ever heard anybody tell me that. I haven't. Nobody's ever told me that their person's eyes were black. Never heard that. So I don't know if it's them being dramatic or what. That's just from my experience. I don't know. It could be that their pupils are all blown out. I don't know. You've been to the eye doctor and gotten in the car afterwards, and they give you those little sunglasses to put on. You take them off, and you go, "Oh," and you finally get your eyes open. And you go, "Oh my Lord," that may be what they're talking about. They could be that blown up from the excitement or something. I don't know. I could get on here and Google it before we did this, and I've looked at this and go, but I'm going to tell you, I've never experienced that before. So the only part of that would be the pupils dilated. I've been a physical therapist for almost 20 years, and I've never had a patient sneer at me. I've been working with this guy I'm a female, who really freaked me out when he sneered at me, but I kept up my professionalism. I was picking up on crazy psychopath vibes from him. Is he a psychopath? I don't know. There's no way to tell just because somebody sneers at you. He might have been mad. Might be something wrong with him. You're a therapist, and you might have seen that later on, what was wrong with him. But just because somebody sneers at you doesn't mean they're a psychopath. If they're putting off psychopath vibes, well, that could just be their behavior that you understand to be psychopathy. Most of the time, psychopaths don't put off a vibe like that. You'd never know they were. Most of the ones you've met, you don't know they were. And you've met one, you just don't know it. They just weren't violent. They don't know it most of the time. They don't realize they're psychopaths. They don't sit around going, I'm a psychopath. That didn't happen. Doesn't. Never heard of it happening. I've heard people, I get email from people saying, I'm a psychopath and this and that and that. And they may be. They may have discovered they are, but I don't think that person would even sit around and that have emailed me and sit around and go, I'm a psychopath and worry about it or anything. I don't think and being that way, you wouldn't want anybody to know. And psychopaths are usually just the greatest person you think you've ever met. You just think they're so wonderful and so nice and so charming, and you can't believe you hadn't met this person before and all that. That's what they're usually like. Those are the people you need to look out for, not just somebody being nice to you, don't get me wrong, but if it's over the top, they're being aggressively nice. Yeah. You've met those people before, when you've met someone, you've hung out with them for a while. You've never met them before, but you met them that day or that night and you hung out. And it was great. You had the best time. And then you go on your way, they go on theirs. Hey, we'll meet on Thursday or something. We'll do the great. And about 20 minutes later, you go, why do I feel so weird? I don't know. Something about that just wasn't right. Because something about that wasn't right. Those are people you got to watch out for. So be careful around those. You won't know if you meet a psychopath. Unless one, how would you not know? Because they're jumping out of the bushes or whatever. But if you meet one in public, 99% of the time, you'll never know it. So that's one of the reasons they fascinate me. They sneak around like that. Do you think you could fool a seasoned detective if you were in an interrogation and chose to lie, considering your expertise? This is one of those questions I was talking about earlier. Well, this has been asked about 3 times on here. If I thought I could lie to somebody and get away with it. One time somebody asked me if I thought I could lie to the other guys on the behavior panel and they would believe it. And I was like, yeah, I could lie right to the face. But the more I think about it, I'm not so sure. I was like 100% sure. Then I went down to 80% sure. Then I think it was down to 70% sure. Then it was 50-50 because I don't know. But anyway, so this has been asked before. I like to think I could. Like anybody else, I'd be like, yeah. And I wouldn't be being honest if I didn't say, I think I could do it. But I wouldn't chance that. You know what I mean? I think I could do it though, but that's not realistic. Kafka said, every man must necessarily be the hero of his own story. So I've got to be the hero of my own story and say, yeah, I can do it. But from a logical perspective, I can't do it. No, there's no way. You can't do it because I can't hide all those things I think I'm hiding. I'm going to be focused on that, which means I want to be thinking. I want to have internal dialogue going on. I'm not going to be able to pay attention to little shoulder shrugs or little things in my mouth and my ears and all those things. I won't know if I'm going like that or if I scooch around as I'm thinking, because I may say, okay, I got him, and I may scooch at the wrong time. Well, I ought to be scooching when I shouldn't be scooching around. And they ask me, that's some kind of question, there shouldn't be scooching going on, right? So it's those kind of things you think you can, like I'm saying, I think I can. But I don't want to try it, because if they're good, they'll see it early on, and they'll never say a word. Won't say anything about it. They'll know. That's how they'll get you or get me, anyway. Because I'd lean into it. I'd try, no, I couldn't do it. From a logical perspective, no, I couldn't do it. From an ego perspective, yeah, I'd try my best, But I know logically, no, you can't do it. I like to think I can, but I know logically I can't. So I'd say no. All right. Hi, Scott. My question is, do you think we really have free will? What is your take on that? That has nothing to do with body language. But I said, ask me anything, I'll answer it. I think we have free will. I do. Yeah, I think we have free will. I think everybody does. You can do anything you want to. The old big guns up there says, hey, man, you can do anything you want. Here's some rules, though. Don't do this, 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 this. Got 10 of them. Don't do that. There's a lot of things you don't want to do, but those are the 10 biggies. So, yeah, I think you have free will. Yeah, that's my take on that. I was wondering, is there any kind of body language we can consciously practice that has been shown to help with depression? The same way there are actions or postures we can use to help with confidence. Yeah. And the guy that did the studies on those, Paul Ekman, and his thing was this: if you smile, that fires off in your brain that emotion. You get a little thing of that emotion and it starts growing in there. If you frown, because you hear people say, don't frown, turn that frown upside down. I can't stand those people. They get on my last nerve most of the time because they're in such a good mood. If I'm in a bad mood, hey, Mr. Sad Face. Oh, but yeah, but that's why. Because when you smile, it makes you feel better. And the reason being, when you make those facial expressions, they trigger those emotions in you. So if you look like this, or you have that scowl on your face, man, that's going to make you feel that emotion. He did studies on that. Go check that out. Paul Ekman, emotions and expressions, something like that. If you want to throw it in the Goog, if I can, I'll find that study and put it in I'll link it below. But yeah, so there are the facial expressions you make trigger off those emotions in you, in your brain, and in your being, in your body. Scott, do you have a favorite psychopath from a movie? Yeah. Billy Bob Thornton in Fargo. What a movie. Not the movie Fargo, but the series Fargo. Man, yeah, he's my favorite one because he does. Now, granted, it's TV, so it was, a lot of things in there weren't right. But he had all the hallmarks of a real one. And of course, Billy Bob Thornton's one of my favorite actors. So, yeah, if not my favorite. I like Ed Norton as well. He's good too. But those are my two favorites. And Tom Cruise, believe it or not. And people say Tom Cruise. I really like Tom Cruise too. So that's my three right there: Tom Cruise, Billy Bob Thornton, and Ed Norton. I really like them. They can all do things that look real to me. But Billy Bob Thornton, so far, he's been my favorite psychopath. And it was in Fargo, and he's got it figured out how to do that. If you want to learn more about psychopaths and body language, watch that video right there. And if you have any questions about body language, just send them to me at bodylanguagequestions@gmail.com, and I'll get right on it.